Good evening to all of yours out there. Welcome to The Point. Today we're going to be discussing one of the hot topics here in Egypt, which is women's empowerment and women's rights. This is something that the Egyptian government has been focusing on for the last few years. And to tell us more about this and the importance of women's empowerment, we're joined by Dina Ismael, a CEO of a training and corporate events company, as well as a manager for a women's mentoring program. Good evening to you.
Hello, hi.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, it's my pleasure.
Can you tell us a bit about the initiatives that have been taking place, if you can name at the top of your head, for the last 7 or 8 years that empower women across the nation? Can you tell us what are the most important ones in your opinion?
Well, there has been really several initiatives that have been done in Egypt concerning women empowerment. And let's start by talking about one of the initiatives that I have been working on myself in the last 3 years. I have been working in a program called Women Mentoring Program. It was with the collaboration with the Central Bank of Egypt and the Top 50 Women Association, as well as the National Council of Women in Egypt. And the main objective of the program was to make the top 50 women mentor and train the potential leaders in the different institutes in Egypt to become second line, third line, and to prepare them to become the leaders of the future. I have witnessed this program myself, and I have seen how the effect of training, and when you see role models in front of you that were able to achieve their goals and reach high titles, and how at the end of the program they really made a great change in their career and in their mindset. This is one of the initiatives that I have witnessed, but there has been several initiatives elsewhere also. And let's talk, if we say Haya Karima now, it's the hot topic in the market. And Takaful and Karama, I'm especially fond of it. It's really focusing on not only on the elite group or the leaders, it's also focusing on the women in need and the most vulnerable part of the society. How to offer them really opportunities of work, how to fund their projects, how to train them on handicrafts, how to open nurseries to enable them to put their kids when they are starting working or going, and to offer different work opportunities. But these are initiatives that I think have been making a great change in our community lately.
Yes. Why is it important that, like you were saying, the program that you were part of, the central bank being part of it, or banking institutions generally being part of it, why is this an important aspect when it comes to training women or mentoring them?
The central bank was actually a sponsor. It was not only focusing on women in the banking sector. While we can see really great leaders in the banking sectors that I have really dealt with and that achieved to be like one of the ones that I really remember, and she passed away last year. Her name was Mervat Sultan. She was the CEO of EBE Bank. She was a real great leader. We have several cases like Zainab Hashim, Lamis Nigm, Lubna Halal, the first vice governor of central bank in Egypt. We had never had a vice governor ever as a woman. But the main objective of the program was not only to train the women in the banking sector. They had women from different institutes, from ministers, from companies, from different sectors, from media, and they formed groups. And I have organized actually training sessions and mentoring, and we trained the top 50 women of how to become mentors. And they were organizing one-to-one coaching classes and coaching workshops, and working on the problems that face middle managers as women, and prepare them to how to focus, how to set their goals, how to achieve them, how to overcome obstacles. But this was really an initiative that I'm really proud of.
Which brings me to another idea that we were talking about earlier off air, which is the psychological aspect. How do you psychologically prepare women to be integrated into the workforce?
Well, actually, I'm an NLP practitioner.
Yes.
NLP practitioner is called Neuro-Linguistic Programming, and I am also an Enneagram practitioner. And these are international certificates that you spend 1 year studying, and they are focusing on how to really control your mind, how to empower yourself, how to get rid of your limiting beliefs, and how to become a stronger person and a more positive person. And I read a book that really changed my mindset completely. Was called Radical Awakening by Dr. Shivali. She was an Indian poor woman that was born in India and then traveled later on to the States, and she became one of the most famous writers in the world, and she was invited by Oprah Winfrey to discuss her book. The book talked about that women are actually not men, are the biggest enemies for women, because from early age women are becoming very judgmental. Since young age we focus on looks, on appearances, we bully, we sometimes are jealous of each other. But she was encouraging women to unite, to not focus on equality with men, to focus on themselves, on how to be better versions of themselves, and to get rid of the egos that control them, of the ego of victimization or the ego of...
Isn't it true that sometimes, a lot of the times, women may be dismissed simply because they are women and not necessarily get higher positions because they're women?
Oh, actually there is, in our, especially in our community, we have, but she also focused on India and on the States, that since childhood women suffer from being or feeling less. They are always striving to attract approval, appraisal, consent of others, even in the most developed societies. We think only that in Egypt or in the Middle East that we are like minorities, but actually when I was working with several multinational companies, and surprisingly that in Europe women are taking salaries that are less than men, which is not the case in Egypt. But women here maybe are suffering from different problems, but at the same time discrimination happens everywhere. But and also at the same time we find women leaders overcoming obstacles and reaching high titles all over the world. And now you see Dina, who I am really proud as a woman, who for me has done the biggest achievement. Why? Because in military is known mainly for men. If you work, I have worked in my company with military, and it's rare that you find women working there. And now to hold an engineering factory making weapons and to run it and to become a chairwoman in this, it's something to be proud of.
So on this point, do you think that this big major step of having a woman run a military production factory, what does this actually mean for women in law enforcement or in the defense fields? Do you think that there will be more women integrated within this sector?
If we have a minister that is already thinking about women equality in the military, and this is not only coming from him, it's actually it's coming from President El-Sisi. And why is that? Because from the beginning he said, I'm the minister of women. I am here. It's not, we are not, and I was really happy to hear him say, women are not taking gifts from us when we're giving them their rights. It's actually their rights. And I'm here to provide them with this. And throughout the past 7 years, he has proven in every situation that he is giving us the chance to become ministers, to become governors. We have Manal Awad, the first governor in Egypt, in Damiata. Now you see women everywhere. For me to enter defense, it's giving the biggest hope.
Yes, like you were saying, that this is an actual government push, and from the presidency as well, and they've been doing this for a number of years, where they're trying to have women be integrated in all different sectors, including very recently 98 women being sworn in as judges for the State Council, which is something that's pretty amazing. And before that, the council had rejected female applicants. What does this mean for the future of women within the judicial bodies in Egypt, and what does this mean for society as a whole? Do you think that people are we going to be accepting if I stand in front of a female judge?
Okay, this is actually a very interesting question that I'm fond of, because why judges? We had the first judge in Egypt coming in 2003.
Yes.
And then in 2008 and 2007, we had around 31 judges. Now we have 98. And why is this considered an achievement? For the simple reason, this was the stiffest resistance ever. And this is coming from the mouth of one of the judges.
Yes.
When they made an interview with her, she said, we as judges are having or facing the toughest resistance to become and to hold this position. And judges are supposed to give women's right.
Yes.
So how come that judges are the ones who should be enabling women's rights in the country, when in their own organization they are resisting having women sit as judges?
Yes.
For now to have 98 judges actually sitting and not believing that women are incapable, especially in this area. We had lots of discussion about that a woman cannot be a judge.
Yes.
And we consider this as, let's say, maybe cultural, religious, that we cannot judge. All over the world, we have women as presidents.
Yes.
We have women in key position.
Yes.
And even as a CEO, you become a judge of the people around you. So why can't she be a judge in the court? And now this is actually one of the biggest achievements.
Yeah. Like you were saying, there are a lot of women that have taken different roles,
Yes.
including a metro driver,
Yeah.
female metro driver. This
Yes.
is a very interesting job.
Yes,
It's actually very
yes.
interesting. Are we starting to see a government that's more keen on empowering women within all sectors, and eventually maybe in the next, say, 5 to 10 years, we're going to see women integrated in every possible sector? You think this is...
Well, I think now that we have the room to be integrated, we are using it to the maximum.
Yes.
For now we are just starting.
Yes.
We are penetrating everywhere.
Yes.
A metro driver, who would think that now we have in Egypt a metro driver?
Yes.
It never happened. For now I see that we are moving on the right track, and we have on our back
Yes.
a government and the president that is pushing us forward.
Yes.
It's now our role to actually move forward,
Yes.
and not to take, like when we say, don't take excuses. We can achieve it. And one of the things that I always say, a woman is perceived always that if she succeeds at work, she will fail at home. No, actually, when you see these women successful, a woman that is successful, that she worked on herself and developed herself and strived to reach these positions, now you can see her home. She has very successful kids, and she's always fighting to make the best out of her family.
Yes. We're also seeing a push from the government itself when it comes to the financial statements or for the fiscal year, for the next fiscal years, that they're trying to increase the budget when it comes to funding anything related to women, such as poor villages, empowering women, providing them with,
Yes.
like you're saying, nurseries and ways so that they can easily find jobs. How can this help in reducing, I suppose, unemployment?
Well, unemployment actually is reduced amongst women. It was around 16%. Now it decreased to 12%.
Yes.
And this is because of the several initiatives that are happening in several villages.
Yes.
We are not only focusing on really the upper or middle class. We're going to the poorest areas and starting educating women. And now women, when you go to the village, we have several initiatives in the village. We have village without illiteracy.
Yes.
We have one day in a village. These are all initiatives that are focusing on educating the women about financial, and we have the financial inclusion by CBE that is encouraging women to have now credit cards and debit cards in villages. So now they are aware that there is something like this.
Financial
So
independence, basically.
Yeah, exactly. And now you have Takaful and Karama.
Yes.
Takaful and Karama is actually giving money with special conditions. After considering, you have conditional cash transfer and unconditional cash transfer, and these are focusing on abused women, on widows, on divorced, on the women who cannot find jobs, and they're actually giving them money to start thinking about building projects, to give them money for food, to train them on how to build their own projects. Haya Karima is giving them actually money to fund their own projects and training them on how to make handicrafts and sell them. These are great really initiatives.
Yes, it's great to have women being financially independent, but also we're starting to see women not just in financial sectors or the political sectors or different various sectors like engineering or whatever, but we're starting to see them as well in the arts, taking leading roles like directors. There are a lot of female directors that we're seeing right now. There is a women's festival in Alexandria, Women's Film Festival. How important is it for women to be represented behind the camera and in front of the camera in media?
Oh, actually, I know personally a friend of mine that has a company that is becoming now one of the biggest media companies, and she's a media producer.
Yes.
And I saw that now women are really in this area, are really fighting their way out to become directors, to become not only actress, not only to produce movies, and to think about what will help. She's making documentaries, she traveled to actually Universal Studios and traveled in Cannes and took several awards. So when we have producers like this and women focusing on entering this media that belong to men for ages and invest lots of money in this area, and she's actually trying to find films that are focusing on women empowerment, which we highly need to have in media programs focusing on the women that actually achieve this, that are entrepreneurs, are heroes, are champions, are actresses, are media producers, are all of this, and present them as role models for others to follow.
Yes. We've started to see women being in leading roles as well on camera. I know there are lots of stars that are female, obviously, but they don't usually take the leading role. It's always the male role that is, he's the star of the film. How do you think that this can affect the minds of young women when they start to see women being the female lead and start to see, stories about women like them?
Yes.
How can this affect their minds?
Well, we had a gap in the past, like say 20 or 30 years, that it was only becoming men movie and women following. While in the 50s and 60s, there were several movies led by women. Now it's returning back. Now you have actresses like Yasmin Abdelaziz, Amina Khalil. All of these women are now becoming the leads. We are entering and are really making profit for the movie sector. When you have, I know they are few now, but they are becoming more and more. But to only have or believe that we cannot do it, this will get us back again in the media sector. I'm encouraging the media producer to focus on women and on women empowerment especially, and focusing on actual stories that happen and success stories and make movies out of them.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Rather than have a character that's just fluff and someone who has a brain.
Exactly.
Which brings me to another idea of how to sort of empower women when it comes to showing them that, you have rights, you can do a lot of things. The National Council for Women has been very vocal in the last few years, and along with other feminist organizations, about women's rights and so forth. Why is it important for them to be active, and why have we seen a rise in these sort of different groups and organizations?
I have seen the National Council of Women, how it was focusing on two hot topics. And I have seen it during when Dr. Mushira Khattab was holding it, and she was focusing on the topic of women circumcision, ختان الإناث, and doing great campaigns about it. When we haven't heard in the capital about it, or it wasn't really that crucial, but the National Council of Women is the one who made great campaigns about this topic especially. Now with Maya Morsi, I have seen a really great rise, and I have worked personally with her in several cities. And what I have seen is that the two greatest achievements that the National Council have done is pushing the law against harassment. And the law against harassment now, it's not only about physical harassment. It's also about any vocal or any language or any kind of harassment, work harassment. And now the woman who complains to be harassed, the criminal can be taking 2 to 4 years jail. And this had never happened. We have now seen harassment being done in the streets, in workplace, in several areas, and now it has been taken seriously that this will not pass as something that is part of our culture. And I have seen great efforts done in this area, as well as there has been several now offices that are in several governorates focusing on how to treat the women that were abused. And we have a law against information protection, because when the woman feels or has been abused, the family usually hides it because they don't want their daughter to have a bad reputation. For now, there is a policy and law around information protection for the family and for the abused person. And Dr. Maya has been taking this very seriously and has done lots of efforts around the country in several governorates enforcing this and educating women about their rights. These are one of the topics that I'm really proud that the National Council had focused on, as well as the discrimination. Discrimination, when you complain about discrimination, and there has been a case actually in the Manhoor University around a woman who hasn't been promoted because she was just a woman. When she complained, the National Council interfered, and the law and the judges, and she has taken the position. For now, these things don't pass easily like they used to. And we have the back of the law and the back of the National Council.
Okay, and do you think that the rise as well of, or rather, the National Council's more vocal acts towards, you know, not just violence, but also social and marital issues of women as well. Do you have any idea how they can help? Because now there are a lot of issues where families are broken up and so forth. Are they trying to push for certain legislation, for instance, or are they trying to focus on how to, you know, mend broken wounds, I suppose, when it comes to broken marriages?
Actually, you will be surprised to know that it's not only the National Council of Women, but also Al Azhar are making programs together called Family and Awareness and Communication with the community. And this is focusing on the marital issues and how to educate young people about marriage rights and how to make family aware about the problems. And the divorce rate has increased dramatically, and now they are both focusing on finding reasons and educating people how to select from the start and not to regret after. These have been programs that have been launched already, but are not maybe taking the biggest focus, but I'm sure in the future there will be lots of awareness campaign around it. And I'm encouraging also media to have series and movies around this, instead of like having already broken families and showing it as something normal, but really trying to solve issues. Like in the past, you found Anis, مثلا, Muhammad Sobhi. He had series about family and how to build values within family. Why don't we have things like this more? We need it. And right now, we have a generation that is rising up that have lots of broken, already divorced father and mother, and several cases in the court. What will we do with this? It's our role to start contributing to this and helping other, like the National Council and all organizations, develop this, these values.
Hopefully these divorce rates will go down.
I hope.
But going back to the idea of, you know, courts and legislation and all of that, do you think that there are legislations that are in the works to empower women in different aspects, whether financial, social, or on a political front?
Oh, I've seen actually several initiatives in the corporate world. I have worked for 32 years in multinational companies, in local companies, in family business, in government, and finally as an entrepreneur. I've seen now women empowerment is a key topic in the HR department in all organizations. Now there are several programs that even I started giving trainings in them about women empowerment. It has been like it's coming from the president that it should be in all organizations.
Yes.
And now it's spreading even to universities.
Yes.
And I'm sure it will come soon to also schools in a model. And now they are focusing in schools on anti-bullying and
Yes.
having, but not actually on discrimination, because kids don't focus about these topics seriously. But in universities and work, I have witnessed several great initiatives focusing on women empowerment.
Yes.
And now when you really complain, it's against the law and things are taken seriously.
Yes. Do you think that the next generation, the younger generation, like you're saying, the ones in schools or in universities currently are going to have a different, work life, I suppose, to women who are from different generations? Will it be easier for them?
Well, actually, I have a daughter that is 20 years old, and I have another that is 15.
Yes.
Well, and the two were champions in rhythmic gymnastics, and I'm very close friend to them both.
Yes.
And I see all the time their friends, and the way they think, they are rebellions. They are simply against everything. And they are witnessing and seeing, and they have survived coronavirus, they survived 2 revolutions, they have witnessed several, we are generations that maybe witnessed also a lot, but they witnessed it since very young age.
Yes.
And now they are also suffering from families. But I think they are very keen to hear, listen, but maybe they will not read much. But when there is actually movies that is interesting, they run to it. They are social media freaks. They don't leave their Instagrams. They don't leave their Facebook. But if we, instead of having campaigns that are corrupting our values, when we have campaigns that are really building values in the family and in the kids and sending them the right messages, I think it's our role now to do so.
Yes.
This generation has a huge potential because they are the digital generation.
Yes.
They are running fast. If we start criticizing them, we will lose. It's a lost battle, and at the end our country will lose. It's our role to collaborate together.
Yes.
To manage this diversity and work closely.
But like you were saying, they're young,
Yes.
and they have a big future in front of them.
Yes.
Do you think that as young women,
Yes.
that when they enter the workforce, life is going to be a little easier for them as females, or is it going to be about the same?
Even if it's the same by the elder generation, they know how to fight their way over.
They're tougher.
They are tougher.
Yes.
They are stronger. They are rebellious, but at the same time, we suffer. And I have worked with several organizations on especially managing diversity.
Yes.
Because they have 2 things. First, they have the mindset of entrepreneurs. Most of the youth now are thinking about having their projects, and they are encouraged big time by the president.
Yes.
That SMEs already, since university, I have witnessed several youth building their own projects.
Yes.
But the ones that finish and start working, they get stuck with the elder generation who think their tempo is, they have experience, they have the knowledge, but they are slower.
Yes.
They are not digital. And the youth, they are coming
With
to
energy.
lead with
Yes,
energy, and they
yes.
want to become manager from the first year.
Yes.
I have done several interviews, and I have sat with several youth, and all what they say, okay, we have worked for 3 months, and we have learned enough. I need to really change a job. It's now becoming our role to train them, and now actually I see organizations focusing on training youth since they join.
Yes.
They have special induction programs. They train them on main courses that makes their pace wiser and more mature, and have a little bit more patience in order to survive what they will face, and to learn their knowledge, because they will take us in a much faster speed towards success.
Yes.
But we need to find
bridge
the
gap
balance.
space.
Exactly.
Yes. Let's get back to the idea of women empowerment as well. Can you tell us a bit about the initiatives that the government has taken forth? I mean, there's a lot of health initiatives that have taken place,
Yes.
focusing on a number of people, but specifically there was an initiative targeting women. How important is it to have a focused campaign on women's health when it comes to integration? I mean,
Yes.
Does this help women when it comes to financial independence? Does it help them, find work easier when they're healthy, I suppose?
At least يعني, one of the most successful initiatives that I have seen
Yes.
is the 1 million health initiative. It has actually focused on the breast cancer.
Yes.
Like I also see Bahia now is one of the most successful
Yes.
projects that has ever been done. And now they are targeting with this project or this initiative almost 28 million women.
Yes.
In order to make them to have screening, to discover early stage cancer, and while they are doing so, they discover other diseases like diabetes, like obesity,
Yes.
and they give advices and they start giving them free treatment. When you have a healthy woman,
Yes.
physically, and you start educating them also mentally and trying to treat her psychologically,
Yes.
you have a successful community. Then the woman is the mother, is the daughter, is the worker, is the manager, is the leader.
Yes.
When you have unhealthy women, how will the community survive at the end? Focusing on her health gives also hope that someone cares. And not only this initiative, there is also has been caring initiative called caring, and it has created lots of awareness about how she should eat, how her family should eat, and how she should be healthier, the sport she should be doing. All of this has been at least we see someone who cares, and this we hadn't witnessed it since ages.
Yes. Like you were saying, women are an integral part of society. In fact, probably the backbone of most families.
Yes.
This includes, having women who are the breadwinners of a family. Especially in poorer communities, we see that these women are providers for their homes. Do you think that there should be more training programs towards these women to give them better skills when it comes to providing for the families?
Well, I have seen now the main two initiatives that have focused on the breadwinners are the Haya Karima and Takaful and Karama. And Takaful and Karama is focusing mainly on the women that are below poverty line.
Yes.
And they cannot even be trained because they are too poor and they have kids. But if they have kids at school, they start forcing her to keep the kids at school if she wants to take the money.
Yes.
They are giving her money and forcing her to educate her kids.
Yes.
But at least she has money for food and for survival.
Yes.
But at the same time, Haya Karima is focusing mainly on educating women and on creating opportunities for her to work. And for millions, we're talking about a billion project, a plus 1 billion project, and this is focusing
big
and
money.
it will exactly.
We are out of time for this episode. So Dina Ismail, CEO of a training and corporate events company, as well as a former manager for a women's mentoring program. Thank you so much for enlightening us on women's rights.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was my honor.
This brings us to the end of this episode of To The Point, but stay tuned for more on Nile TV.